Is this thing on? It is. All right, we're back here on the Bandwagon Sports channel. I'm your host, DaRock, and we're here with my reaction to the quarterfinal of the college football playoffs. But it's going to be a lot more than that. It's going to be my just kind of thoughts on how this new format's turned out so far, my thoughts on the sport as a whole, and honestly, might even be some of my thoughts on sports as a whole and how sports, content and narratives are going on right now. So before we fully jump into it, if you like these kind of sports talk videos, make sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, let's just get into it. It's been a minute. I'm aware that it's been a minute. I'll address it at the end. So let's go. All right, so first, we're going to start this. I'm going to start by talking about just kind of these quarterfinal games. I'm going to start by talking about the quarterfinal games and then some of my bigger takeaways. So Penn State, first team in the quarterfinals, or in the semifinals. Also, I'm going to call it the semifinals. I'm not calling it the Final Four. Final Four is reserved for basketball. It's a basketball thing. This is not Final Four. This is the college football playoff semifinals. They knock off Boise State 31-14. Those who didn't actually watch the game think that verifies their take of Boise State didn't deserve to be in. If you watch the game, it was a lot closer than how it portrayed. So Drew Aller led the way for Penn State, 171 yards passing with 3 TDs. And then he didn't really do anything rushing, but it's weird. College sacks, like if you get sacked, that counts towards your total rushing yards, which just completely messes it up. So that's a little weird. Nick Singleton rushed for the only other Penn State touchdown, 87 yards for a touchdown. Tyler Warren, he's been kind of the Penn State go-to guy all year. He caught 2 touchdowns and then had 63 yards, and then Amari Evans had the other touchdown. On the Boise State side, Heisman runner-up Ashton Jeanty rushed for 104 yards. That is a good game, people. People saying he's overrated. Again, please watch the games. He's not overrated. He's very good. And just appreciate greatness. Maddox Manson threw for 304 yards. Did throw for a touchdown, but had 3 interceptions. Matt Lauder was the one to catch that touchdown, 4 receptions for 96 yards, and a touchdown for him. But really what it came down to, kicking and turnovers. So kicking-wise, Boise State 0 for 2 on field goals. They had a couple field goals that, they were set up late in the game. Could have, made this a closer game than it was, and that's kind of what resulted in it getting out of hand. And then the turnovers. Boise State had 4 turnovers, losing a fumble and throwing 3 interceptions, whereas Penn State only had 1. So there were some miscues, there were some mistakes from Boise State. So while the scoreboard may not indicate that this was a close game, I'm going to be honest, I did not watch all of it. I had to kind of watch highlights, check Twitter. This game was closer than the score. Boise State belong in the playoff. If you think they deserve to bye, I can understand maybe not thinking that. I'm going to address that later. Boise State deserved to be in the playoff. It was a good game. Good win for Penn State. I mean, the 12-team playoff is perfect for guys like James Franklin. Penn State doesn't beat Ohio State. It hasn't happened in a while. The kind of joke is James Franklin doesn't win the big games, and the only big game that Ryan Day wins is against Penn State. So does that really count as a big game? But Penn State, they're into the semifinals. They have a big game now. It's big games from here on out. So we'll see what happens. Then we move on. First game of the day on January 1st. I'm going to be honest, early looked like it was going to be a blowout, but it turned into probably the best game of the playoffs so far. Not probably, the best game of the playoffs so far. Texas advances the national semifinal, a double overtime 39-31 win over Arizona State. So once again, Arizona State didn't belong, no, they did. Oh, Cam Scatterbo, he's not that good. No, Cam Scatterbo was good. He rushed for, or Scatterbo. So some people pronounce it differently. Scatterbo rushed for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. He won the game MVP on the losing team. I don't think that's ever happened in the Sugar Bowl, or at least it hadn't happened in a very long time when they gave him the trophy after the game. Quinn Ewers, good game for him, 322 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Sam Levitt, 222 yards passing, 1 interception. Let me go to the full box score here. But yeah, like I said, Texas, they got out to an early. They're up 14-0. Arizona State had some kicking woes as well. And to be honest, I kind of thought this one was over. Went to do some other stuff. All of a sudden, I'm coming back. I'm seeing Texas have a shot to win it. And then their kicker missed twice. So kicking miscues on both sides. So yeah, Quinn Ewers, 322 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. The rushing, and then he also had a rushing touchdown. Texas didn't really do much rushing-wise other than that. Quintravion Wisner was their leading rusher with 45 yards with his long of 7. Matthew Golden is their number 1 receiver for the Longhorns. He had a good game, 149 yards, and then a touchdown in overtime. And then Gunnar Helm had the other receiving touchdown, 56 yards. Go with that touchdown. Oh, and then, DeAndre Moore, 2 catches for 25 yards, including that 1 touchdown. So on the Arizona State side, like I mentioned, Levitt, he 222 yards, 1 interception. Cam Scatterbo also threw the 1 touchdown pass for Arizona State on a trick play on top of his 2 rushing touchdowns. So he was a big contributor. Like I said, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mentioned that already. Levitt did have 60 rushing yards. So Arizona State had a good ground attack as well. And then Scatterbo also had 99 yards receiving. Like bro's a demon. People are out here gonna shit on him, but he's a demon. Like, he should have been in New York. He should have been a finalist. Malik McClain caught the other Arizona State touchdown. It was his 1 reception for 42 yards on the game. So good game for him. But yeah, let's these team stats. Let me pull up kicking, because the kicking was brutal in this game. Oh wait, never mind. That's still under box score. Sorry. The kicking was brutal in this game. I'm sure there's the clip of Steve Sarkisian, Texas coach, trying to hype up Brett Auburn, his kicker, after he had just missed the kick before, and then he missed again at the buzzer. So yeah, Auburn went 1 for 3 from field goals. He did go for 4 extra points, 1 from 3. Karsten Kiefer was 2 for 3. He had a kick blocked. So both teams with some missed kicks. There was also really the big call in this game, potential targeting that was not called. And to be honest, textbook targeting. It should have been called targeting. Arizona State, I'm not going to say they got screwed. They could have, that's what I'm saying. I think we can recognize bad calls, but to say, oh, okay, we lost because of 1 call, I don't think that's a thing. I think there's many other things in the game you can point to than to be, oh, we lost because of this 1 call. So that's that kind of in my thing I saw. It's like people were like, oh, we don't want targeting inside the game. No, call the game the same way the whole game. But you can't say, oh, we lost the game because we didn't get this call. No, you did other things to lose the game. You should have got a stop on 4th and 13 in overtime if you want to win the game. Stuff like that. That was when Ewers hooked up with Golden for that big touchdown. Looked like Arizona State was about to win, and then they got that one interception that Levitt threw. They got it in overtime by Andrew Mbuka. That sealed the game, won it for Texas. So good game. I don't really want to hear, oh, Arizona State didn't belong, shouldn't have had a bye. No, they played Texas really well. That's like I said, by far been the best game of the playoffs so far. Then the next one, this ended up being the only 2 on Wednesday here on New Year's Day. The Ohio State Buckeyes just absolutely demolished Oregon, 41-21. They jumped on them immediately. They were up 34-0. Oregon didn't score until the final play of the first half. They did come back. The Ducks made it a little close here in the second half, but Ohio State, man, just too much to handle. They just could not stop Jeremiah Smith. He had 187 yards and 2 touchdowns. Will Howard was slinging it, man. 319 yards for him and 3 touchdowns. The ground game, Trevion Henderson had 2 touchdowns, 94 yards rushing, including a long 66-yarder. Just cribbed it from way downtown. Judkins had 85 yards as well, so, good game from him. And then Mbuka caught the other touchdown. He had 72 yards on 5 receptions, so the Ohio State offense was just clicking, man. They could not be stopped. It was a lot of fun to watch. On the Oregon side, Dylan Gabriel, he threw for 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he did, fine game from him as well. Jordan James was the leading rusher, only 14 yards. Yeah, the Ducks had nothing going ground game. The Ohio State defense was just all over them. It was just, like I said, it was just all Buckeyes in the first half. It really wasn't a game, which was disappointing. I really was kind of hoping this would be a good game. Obviously, want Buckeyes to win. But, hoping to be a good game. Receiving-wise, Trayshawn Holden had a good game, 116 yards. He caught both those touchdown passes. And then Terrence Ferguson also had 71 yards. Tez Johnson, he was Oregon's big receiver, but the Buckeyes were able to kind of shut him down. He only had 5 receptions for 32 yards. So I'm going to get to this in a second. Like I said, I want to go through all these games first. But Oregon, just absolutely brutal, tough draw. The only undefeated team all year. And what is their reward? They draw an Ohio State team that they lost to by 1 earlier in the year. I'm going to be honest. I think in a 4-team playoff year, I think the two quarterfinals, this one I'm talking about and the one I'm about to talk about, I think those would have been the semifinals in a 4-team year. And I think those probably are the 4 best teams in the country. I think Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, and Notre Dame are the 4 best teams in the country this year. So let's just go to that right to that game. Like I said, not a whole lot to say about Ohio State, Oregon. Wasn't a super competitive game. Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, they're another team. First time winning 13 games in program history. You would be surprised. Notre Dame, like I said, such a storied program. Like definitely one of the all-time blue bloods in college football. But, since we've gone to this BCS and college football playoff era, the Irish haven't had a bunch of success. They were in the title game in 2012. They've made a couple college football playoff appearances, but they never won a college football playoff game until this year, knocking off knocking off Indiana and then knocking off Georgia. So they win today, 23-10. Really wasn't a good game throwing from Riley Leonard. He only had 90 yards and 1 touchdown passing, but he did rush for 80 yards. Jadarian Price, he had to be kind of the bigger rusher. He had 37 yards. As Jeremiah Love, he's been dealing with an injury, so he only had 19 yards, didn't play a whole bunch. Gunnar Stockton had to come in for Georgia. He was the Georgia quarterback because Carson Beck, their leader all year, he got injured in the SEC title game. So Stockton came in, he threw for 234 yards and 1 touchdown. 20 of 32 on his attempts. Rushing-wise, Georgia, their leading rusher was Trevor Etienne with 38 yards. I mean, his long was 8. Nate Frazier had 37 yards, but his long was 28. So, Notre Dame, man, they have a really good defense. I mean, the best, Arian Smith had 1 reception for 67 yards. Cash Jones had 2 receptions for 37 yards and a touchdown for Georgia. That was all of Georgia's scoring. Other than that, it was field goals. And Notre Dame was they were just forcing turnovers, man. I mean, let's look at this score here, because that was really what did it. This was a 3-3 game. Late in the second half, Notre Dame then kicked field goal up 6-3, but then what really broke it open was Georgia fumbles, and then Notre Dame picks it up. They score a touchdown. They now go up into the half 13-3. What was a 6-3, 3-3 game, 6-3. Okay, Georgia, you're chilling, you're fine. But yeah, that was really backbreaking. 2 turnovers, 2 fumbles lost for Georgia. Really, that's the difference in the game. I think Notre Dame and Ohio State have the 2 best defenses in the country. I think they're the 2 best teams in the country. As we saw, like I just said, I think the 4 best teams in the country are Ohio State, Oregon, Notre Dame, Georgia, and then Ohio State and Notre Dame won those games. So that's my pick for the national championship right now. I'm not gonna get super deep into it, but that's my pick for the national championship. I haven't really been shout out anybody on Notre Dame. Let me do that real quick. They kept talking about Jordan Faison during the game because he was lacrosse national champion at Notre Dame. He had 46 yards on 4 receptions. Bo Collins caught the 1 touchdown pass. So that was his only reception for 13 yards. Oh, Jaden Harris. He scored defensive fumble recovery touchdown. Correct? Am I doing that right? Is my mathing? Yes, my math is mathing. They scored 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals. Yes, that is good mathing. So yeah, Notre Dame, very stout defense, and with a backup quarterback, Georgia just didn't really stand a chance. So that's that. So yeah, let me get into this. Format. All right, so before I get into these rants, I'm just gonna start. I'm gonna be hand up. I live in Illinois. I'm an Ohio State fan. My dad went to Indiana. I have my mom went to Wisconsin. I have Big Ten bias. I'm just gonna be honest. I have Big Ten bias. But just all the SEC narrative people crying online after these first round games and about, our teams got screwed for Indiana and SMU. What, you gonna whine that Oregon got screwed? Because Ohio State just beat the crap out of Oregon. Should Oregon have not been in? All this talk, Notre Dame or Indiana shouldn't have been in. Indiana's 2 losses are, like I said, I think the 2 best teams in the country, Notre Dame and Ohio State. Indiana played Ohio State closer than Tennessee did. Like I'm just like, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Like I don't want to hear all this narrative pushing the SEC. Oh, Alabama should have been. Alabama lost to Michigan. I know. I mean, opt outs. I get it. Completely different, but I just don't want to hear it. I just don't want to hear it, to be honest. I just don't want to hear this. Oh, it means more. Like, we're so like, yes, is the SEC the best conference in football? Yes, but this was a down year for the SEC. The SEC was not as dominant this year as they were in the past, and I mean it shows. Their champion just lost. Their champion got knocked out by who I think is a better team. Granted, they had their backup quarterback, but it's also their third loss of the year. Which again, Georgia had to play a gauntlet in the SEC. That's another thing I can get into. They got to figure something out with scheduling. But this just like, oh, I should be in because I play in this conference. Like, no, if you have 3 losses, you don't know. You should not be in. The games on the field must matter. And trust me, I love Josh Pate. I don't listen to his show a bunch, but he interacted with me. I was late recording. I was up late recording a video, and he took the time, because when I kind of questioned his rankings, he'd be like, what the heck are these? And explained to me and talked ball with me at 1:30 in the morning, on Twitter. Like that, like, I major respect. That's just a guy who loves ball. That's sicko stuff right there. I respect that. But this, we would be favored. This team would be favored on a neutral field according to FanDuel Sportsbook. No, that's not why your team should be in. The games on the field must matter. You know what sport loves? Like dealing with hypothetical trades and scenarios more than the games on the that actually take place. The NBA. You know what all the discussion has been about the NBA lately? Has it been about games? No, it's about why are the NBA ratings down? You want to know why? Because they care more. Fans care more about where's Jimmy Butler getting traded to than Jimmy Butler actually playing games. And college football, if they want to go down the same route where, okay, let's not make the games matter so we can put in all the Alabamas and the big brands of the world, then fine. But you're going to lose fans? Honestly, I may be one of them. Like, the games must matter. And I will say that is one thing this season, the 12-team format did well, is the games mattered. The games mattered. And, like, I'm just going to be honest. Like last year. Last year, for example, only 4 teams. There was more than 4 teams that could win the national title last year. I think Georgia and Florida State, before Jordan Travis got injured, had an argument that they could win the national title. So, I think more than 4 teams, you have an argument. I'm sorry, bro. There is never in the history of college football been a season where there is 12 teams capable of winning the national championship. So all these teams are great. I love all these games. But just like whining that teams shouldn't be in because they're not capable of winning the national championship. Yeah, no shit. Sorry for I'm being cursing more than I usually do. I'm passionate about this. But just I'm just not going to stand for it. The committee got the field right this year. Like I'm sorry. Like I'm even for it. Like some people arguing like BYU should be in. That's how they play the bowl game. Yeah, but BYU, you lost 2 games. You didn't make your conference championship game. Make your conference championship game, and then you have an argument. But you didn't make the conference championship game. Like, that's what happened to SMU. That's why SMU got in. They made their conference championship game. Did they lose? Yes, but they got there. They got to the highest pinnacle in their power conference. That's why they got in. Now, I will get to this. The seeding. I think the seeding is an issue. I think it is an issue. I don't think the solution of just going, you seed, I think that's what they will do. And to be honest, I think for now it's a fix. I think seeding it just 1 through 12, I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense because I think one, you would get better games the first round. Because I mean that's also the thing here. Like I said, Indiana had to play Notre Dame, who I think is probably the second best team in the country right now, the way they're playing. Whereas if it was just seed 1 through 12, Indiana instead of going on the road, Notre Dame would have hosted Boise State. I think that would have been a closer game. Okay, so it was Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Tennessee, Indiana, Boise State, SMU. And then Clemson was way down at 16, but because they won their conference, they would have been in. So it would have been, like, that's what I'm saying. If you make your conference title game, you definitely for sure should be, like, you win a Power 5 conference, or now Power 4, and then your highest group of 5 champion. Yeah, I think you should be in. Like, I don't think that's a no-brainer. I don't think it's just like, oh, we seed 1 through 12 with, like, the 12th. Like, no. Like, if you win a power conference, that's the whole point of, like, expanding this field, you should be in. Should you get a bye? Maybe not. We can debate that. But should you be in? Yes. So it would have been Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State with the byes, and then Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, Arizona State, Tennessee, SMU, Indiana, Boise. I mean, Tennessee, SMU. I think that would have been a more competitive game. As SEC fans would have loved to see that one. I can tell you that. I mean, Clemson, Notre Dame. Maybe that's a close game too. Probably not, but you never know. So I think people are like concerned we need more competitive games. Okay, then let's seed it that way. But here's the thing, though. I do also want to point out 16 of the 30 college football playoff games in the 4-team era were decided by 3 scores or more. So let's just think about that. That was when it was 4 teams. That was just when it was 4 teams. So obviously, if 4 teams, when there's kind of a disparity, if there's blowouts, there's going to be blowouts when it's 12 teams. But I don't think that's like the end of the world. Like I said, more games mattered this year. Like Alabama losing to Oklahoma, like, yeah, that was a big deal. In a 14 playoff, that doesn't matter. Alabama's season's already over before they lose that game. The like fun debate of like, oh, South Carolina's hot. Like, should South Carolina be in? That doesn't exist because they'd already have lost 3 games. There's no world where they would have been in. Like, the 12 teams is good, but just what I'm saying is there's going to be blowouts. There's going to be teams that make the tournament that are not capable of winning the national championship. Like, I don't think there's going to be a 12 seed that goes on and wins the national championship. I think eventually there'll be a 12 seed that wins a game. I don't think every year it's just going to be like the 4 home teams win like it was this year. So that's the thing. I don't think we can just overreact to one year. Do I think there needs to be fixing? Yes, but do I think overhauling the whole system is 1 year? That's an overreaction. I mean, look at the MLB, for example. People were calling for, oh, we need to redo it. Like the team's on a bye. Like it's too much rest. Like they start getting rusty. No one was saying shit this year when it was the Dodgers and Yankees. All right, people like changing things when it fits their narrative. When it doesn't fit the big brand's narrative, when it fits their narrative, then it's fine. Oh, we don't need any change. But when it's, oh, now the Dodgers and Yankees aren't making it every year, the Alabamas of the world aren't making it every year, we got to change everything. Like, no. That's the beauty of sports. That's why you play the games. The biggest brands don't always win. So I'm gonna say I am in favor. Like, I'm fine if they decide next year change it. Okay, we seed it 1 through 12 rather than this kind of goofy format with the conference championship game by. I think in theory it was a good thought, but I don't think all conference champions are created equal. But here's the thing. I think what they need to figure out is either they need to get rid of conference championships or like figure out a way to make everyone playing a 13 game. Because that was the thing. And I was kind of hinting, like in a 14 year, I think maybe Ohio State gets in over Penn State because they won head to head and Penn State lost their conference championship. Like the committee treated conference champions different. It was only 4 teams. But this year they kind of like, you can't punish a team for losing your conference title game because they had to play an extra game that teams behind them didn't. And that's where I think you run into issues where it's like, okay, what's the benefit in playing in my conference title game now? Like if I'm not going to potentially get a bye or like get any sort of really reward for winning my conference, like, okay, I'm SMU, I won the ACC, well, I'm still going on the road. Like, no, like that, like something needs to change there where it's like I had to play this extra game just to still have to play in the first round on the road. Like that does not work. It needs to change. Here's my proposed change, which is crazy. This probably goes against, I think you go 14 teams. So then it's the top 2 conference champions get by, which most likely will just be the first and second ranked team in the country. So that then makes it, you just seed the rest of the field out. But I do think there needs to be some sort of change. I think that could be fixed. That could be fixed with, fix this imbalanced scheduling. So let me just throw it all out there. It's been a while, so I'm just throwing it all out there. I think we need conference tournaments in college football. But hear me out. I'm not saying we do like a full like college basketball where it's like, okay, we're seeding the teams 1 through 14, we're playing out this. Like, no. I'm saying, here's my thought. Instead of divisions, you go quadrants, or like, I don't know, maybe it's tough in the Big Ten because there's 18 teams, so you go like 3 divisions of 6. But I think you need some sort of like quadrants like that. Like we'll just say, for example, the SEC 4 quadrants. So you play all 3 teams in your quadrant. Then like the NFL does. So NFL has these 4-team divisions. If you finish first place in your division, you play all the other first place teams in your conference next year. And same thing with second place, third place. So they do that. You play the first place team, second place team, whatever place you finish in all the other divisions. So that gets you to 6 conference games. Then you can have 1 or 2 protected rivalries or like rotating games. So there you go. You still get to 8. Then you break it down. Okay, first place in each quadrant, they play in the like conference title like half or like the top bracket, and then second place plays in like the second bracket, third place third bracket, fourth place fourth bracket. You can even like switch it. Maybe you don't do for just necessarily you win your quadrant, you get to play like maybe, for example, maybe this year like Ohio State and Oregon in the Big Ten would have been in the same quadrant or something, and they like I don't know. I feel like this year would have been pretty obvious. The Big Ten, the 4 teams in the Big Ten playoff or Big Ten tournament would have been Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, Oregon, because they were the 4 best teams. So, conference record, whatever. And then you just play it out. You seed it out, okay? The 2 winners, they play in the conference title game. 2 losers, they play in the third place game. In the second place bracket, the 2 winners play for 5th place. The 2 losers play for 7th place. And then you kind of go down, and then you can like fully put each team in the conference like in order. So you will know, okay, this is the first place team in the Big Ten. This is the second place team. This is the third place team. This is the fourth place team. And it's decided on the field because the games matter. And then there you go. Everyone's playing 13 regular season games. Easy peasy. So there you go. 10 conference games. How big these conferences, you need 10 conference games with how big these conferences are now. I'm sorry, 8 conference games is a joke. Honestly, really even 9 isn't enough. It really should be 10 at this point. So play 10 conference games, including 8 regular season, 2 in the tournament. You can still have your three non-con games. Sure, if SEC teams go ahead and schedule your FCS opponent, that's fine. You can still do that. People might say, where are we getting this third week? I'm sorry. I mean, we saw it this year. There was bowl games in Army-Navy. Army-Navy came out after the playoff. Army could have potentially been a playoff team this year. As much as I love the pageantry of that day, I think Army-Navy Day kind of becomes conference title weekend. And the weekend before conference title weekend currently becomes conference semifinal weekend. And, I hate it, but there are certain things that just have to change with this new format. And I think Army-Navy being a standalone game is kind of one of those things that has to go. I'm trying to think any other final thoughts. I kind of hit on the gambling thing earlier, but I'm just going to hit it because it was a discussion at the bar tonight. And just something that in 2025 here, I want to encourage people. And, I'll tie ratings into this too, because I was talking about ratings earlier. I encourage people to watch games once again without gambling on it. It is so much more enjoyable. And I personally just think this gambling culture is what's killing sports media, how sports are covered. Like I said, we're using gambling, who would be favoring gambling to try to determine who should be playing for national title game. I know in this sport they used to just have newspaper writers determine it, but I'm sorry, the games on the field must matter. And I'm handed up, I gamble, and this afternoon's prime example. There was Big South basketball on during the day. It was something, throw a couple bucks on it to just be something to distract me during the day. Well, my bet's lost. Then I found myself being frustrated, chasing, trying to make this money back. No, it's just a rat race. Don't do it. And just I hate all these professional cappers. No, there's a big difference between knowing ball and being a good gambler. If you're a profitable gambler, most profitable gamblers don't know ball because they throw out a bunch of these long shot parlays and one hits that makes up for all their losses. They don't know ball. They're just spewing nonsense. So that's my take. I encourage you in 2025, try to watch games without gambling. I'm telling you, it is enjoyable. If it's a game you're gonna watch anyways, you can do it without gambling. I'm telling you, it's really enjoyable. Like I said, I'm an Ohio State fan. I usually don't gamble on Ohio State games. I don't really gamble on most of these playoff games because I know I'm gonna watch them anyways, and I just want to watch. I just want to see what happens. I don't want to be pissed off at the end. I went through this similar thing, a couple of years ago, March Madness. I already do a bunch of pools and stuff. I don't need to gamble on the games. I'm gonna watch them regardless. I just found myself first day of the tournament being pissed that I lost all this money. It's no, I love this sport. I love these games. Why am I mad? So I encourage you to do that in 2025. I also encourage you, like I said, do not let ratings and narratives stop you from watching what you want to watch. Just because, on Christmas Day, perfect example. NFL and Netflix drew like 25 million viewers. The NBA games drew 5 million. Anyone who actually watched the games could tell you the NBA games were a million times better than the football games. And I'm a Steelers fan, so I watched the Steelers game, but to be honest, it was hard to watch. They played horribly. They were getting their butts kicked. It was not fun. So you know what I did? I turned on NBA. Granted, at the time, the Mavericks Timberwolves would blow up, but it got to be a good game. And then Lakers Warriors, like I said, I don't watch a bunch of NBA anymore. I'm just going to be straight up. Just like I said, the hypotheticals. They care more about the hypotheticals and doing weird shit than the actual games. The Warriors-Lakers was one of the best NBA games I have watched in recent memory. That was a very enjoyable game to watch. Very much enjoyed it. LeBron, Steph, going back and forth. Those guys are insane. So, I want to encourage you, don't just be like, because I was kind of having this discussion earlier too. The NFL is going to keep putting games on whatever day, on whatever network, because they know people are going to watch. If that keeps happening, we are going to see a Super Bowl that is behind a paywall, that is in London, that's some weird shit, because they know we're going to watch. And eventually, we have to take a stand. Like, do not just say, oh, NFL's on, I must watch. There's so many other great sports on most days. Like, the whole, like, people are saying the first round of the playoff, like, and trust me, I love PTI, but them saying college football isn't invading an NFL Saturday, like, are you kidding me? NFL Saturday is not a thing, dude. Like, so I guess that's just my thing. Like, do not feel like, oh, the NFL's on, I must watch. Like, watch whatever you want to watch. Don't let ratings tell you if a game was good or not. Like, oh, these games were blowouts. Like, the ratings were bad because it was a blowout. Like, just watch what you want to watch. Like, do not let other people and just, like, how sports media is being covered currently deter you from watching games. Some of this I might have to cut. I'm just yapping. So, I want to apologize for no video in a long time. I'm going to be honest, there's kind of been a lot going on in my life right now, but 2025, my goal is consistency. If I'm ever going to grow this thing, I need to be more consistent. I think kind of last year, college basketball was where I caught my win, and I think this year I'm ready. I know kind of my schedule, like I'm going to have a routine during college basketball. What the problem was I tried to do the frequency of college basketball with other sports once college basketball ended that I just did not have the time to do. And it, like I said, it just kind of became stressful. I get overwhelmed, and that's usually kind of when I stop, when I go missing, is when I get overwhelmed by these things. So my goal 2025 is just kind of be more consistent, know what I'm capable of and not overdoing it. So I really appreciate, all you guys who are coming on that journey with me. I really, like I said, I do want to grow this thing. I want to keep just talking ball, because that's what I love doing. Sports bring me a lot of joy in my life. So I want to share that with others. Like I said, I don't want how things are currently covered with just gambling and just this hot take culture to ruin sports for people, because they really are a truly beautiful thing. So I'm going to try to change the way they're covered and, bring attention to things that maybe people aren't talking about as much. So, it gives you something to talk about. And, that's just kind of my goal with this. So I want to do that, build a community. So if you want to be a part of that community, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment. I had something I was going to tell people to comment. Now I can't remember, but just whatever your takes on. I talk about a lot of different stuff, man. Whatever your takes, I just want to hear it. I want to hear your comments. I want to interact with you guys. I really appreciate everyone who's watching, especially if you're still watching at 35-minute mark. It is 1:15 in the morning, so I'm going to go to bed. Thank y'all for watching. Peace.